I wasn't supposed to be home that night. My 25th birthday was supposed to be loud, messy, full of laughter and tequila shots with my best friends in a packed Chicago bar. I'd bought a new dress for it, the kind that sparkled under dim lights and made you forget about heartbreaks and overdue rent. But that morning, I woke up with a pounding migraine and a strange, gnawing feeling I couldn't shake. I canceled everything, told my friends I wasn't feeling well and needed rest. But the truth was I needed comfort. Not the kind that comes in the form of cake or texts. I needed home, Ohio, where the walls still held echoes of bedtime stories, where my mom's hugs still smelled like vanilla, and where everything had always felt safe, at least that's what I thought. My name is Callie Monroe, and I never thought my 25th birthday would be the day I stopped seeing my family the same way. I didn't tell my parents I was coming. I thought surprising them would be sweet. Maybe Mom would whip up that chocolate pie I loved. Maybe Dad would say he was proud of me, something he hadn't said in a long time. It was nearly 9 p.m. when I pulled into the driveway. The lights were on in the kitchen, casting a warm glow through the windows. I grabbed my bag and stepped inside, expecting the familiar smell of home. But what I smelled was red wine. And what I heard wasn't right. There was laughter coming from the kitchen, but it wasn't my mother's. It was a woman's voice, soft, almost flirtatious. Then I heard my father laugh, too. Not the gruff, tired laugh I'd grown up with. This one was lighter, youthful. My feet moved without thinking. I walked down the hall and turned the corner into the kitchen. And there she was, a woman I'd never seen before, sitting at our kitchen table like she belonged there. Late 30s, maybe. Dark hair that cascaded over her shoulders like something from a shampoo commercial. A delicate gold necklace, red lipstick, and a wine glass in her hand. My father, my dad, was sitting across from her, halfway through a story, his eyes lit up like he was in high school again. He froze the second he saw me. The smile dropped from his face like a curtain falling. "Callie," he stammered. "What are you doing here?" I didn't answer. The woman turned and gave me a polite, tight-lipped smile. "Oh, you must be Callie. I've heard so much about you." I just stared at her. My mind scrambled for explanations. Maybe she was a colleague? A friend? A visiting cousin I'd somehow never met? But the lipstick stain on his wine glass, the way they were sitting too close, the silence that hung like smoke after an explosion, it told me everything I needed to know. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even cry. I just said, "Happy birthday" to me, turned around and walked out the door. I didn't make it far. 3 blocks down, I pulled over, turned off the engine, and let my head fall against the steering wheel. The tears came then, hot, heavy, and unforgiving. Not just because of the cheating, but because he let her sit in our kitchen. He let her drink wine in the home my mother made beautiful. And suddenly, everything I had ever known about my family felt fake. I kept thinking about how Mom used to say, "If anything ever happened, I'd want you to tell me the truth." But how do you tell the truth when it sets a bomb off in the middle of your life? I didn't go back home that night. I booked a motel and tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw that woman's face. Her confidence. Her comfort in her house. I felt betrayed, not just by my dad, but by time, by memory, by all the birthdays we'd celebrated at that very table while he was off building another life behind our backs. In the morning, I opened my phone to a dozen missed calls and texts from my dad. No messages from Mom. I didn't call him back. I didn't want to hear excuses. I wanted truth. Not the half-baked kind, but the whole rotten loaf he'd been baking for years behind our backs. That was the day something changed in me. A quiet fury settled beneath my skin. I didn't know it yet, but this wouldn't be just a story of heartbreak or family betrayal. It would become a story of revenge. Because if he thought he could humiliate my mother, destroy the foundation of our family, and go on like nothing happened, then he clearly didn't know me at all. I didn't tell him. Not that day. Not the next. Not even a week later. She was humming while arranging flowers in a vase, planning their upcoming 30th wedding anniversary like it meant something. And maybe to her, it still did. Maybe that was the most tragic part. I couldn't stand to break her heart if there was even a 1% chance that she didn't know. But that tiny, fragile hope? It didn't last long. My father tried to pretend nothing had happened. He left voicemails telling me he was sorry for the misunderstanding, like I was some kind of child who couldn't tell the difference between a dinner guest and a mistress. He even had the nerve to say, "She's just a friend, Callie. You don't understand how complicated things can be in a marriage." Complicated? Is that what we call infidelity now? That was when I stopped answering his calls altogether and started digging. It wasn't hard to find the cracks, because they were everywhere once I let myself see them. The sudden gym membership last year, his brand new phone with a lock code, he used to say he hated passwords, the weekend conferences that had no paper trail, no hotel receipts, no photos. And then there was Jade Carpenter, the woman from the kitchen. She was a registered nurse at a private clinic 30 minutes away, married to a man named Mark, mother of 2 teenage boys. Her online presence was clean, too clean. No family photos. No happy birthday posts. Nothing that looked even remotely real. But you know what was real? The private messaging account she had on a website called Second Sunsets, a discreet connection space for married professionals. That's where I found her handle. And my father's. They weren't subtle. The usernames were different, sure, but the messages? They were unmistakably theirs. I read things no daughter should ever read. Nicknames. Inside jokes. Photos I will never be able to erase from my mind. But the thing that twisted the knife? The timestamps went back 10 years. Jade wasn't the first. She was just the one stupid enough or secure enough to let me catch them. For a week, I lived like a ghost in my own life. I showed up to work, smiled through meetings, but inside I was unraveling. Angry, ashamed, confused. One night, I couldn't hold it anymore. I walked into the kitchen where Mom was icing a cake. It was my dad's favorite, lemon with almond cream. You ever wonder if Dad's hiding something? I asked, my voice cracking more than I wanted it to. She didn't look up. Why do you ask? I paused. Just little things. His phone, the work trips. The other night, I saw. She cut me off. He's been cheating on me for years, Callie. Just like that. Like she was saying it didn't matter that winter followed fall or that sugar dissolves in tea. I stared at her. You knew? She nodded, calm. Still icing that damn cake. How could you? How are you okay with it? Her hands didn't stop moving. Because I stopped loving your father a long time ago. The silence between us could have broken windows. She set the cake down, finally looking at me with eyes so tired they felt older than her face. I stayed for you. For the house. For the life I built with my own hands. Because if I left, everything I created would have belonged to the lie instead of me. And because one day, she added softly, he'll be the one begging for scraps. Not me. That's when it hit me. My mom wasn't a victim. She was waiting. For what? I didn't know. But suddenly, it wasn't just my heartbreak anymore. It was our silence. It was the rotten truth that had festered beneath our perfect family for over a decade. And I realized we had both been playing a game we didn't know we were in. Only now, I was done playing by his rules. The night had to look perfect. The living room was glowing in soft amber light. Classical music floated from the Bluetooth speaker, like we were in some romance movie. My mother stood in the kitchen, carefully garnishing the lamb chops she'd marinated for 2 days. Everything looked exactly like it should have for a 30th wedding anniversary. Except this time I had planned it. Every dish, every wine bottle, every candle on the table was part of the stage I'd built. The audience? My father. And someone else he hadn't invited, someone who had every right to be there. But I'll come back to that. My father had been walking around the house for days like nothing was wrong. As if I hadn't seen him with Jade. As if he hadn't shattered the foundation of our family and then handed me a broom and said, "Clean it up quietly." What he didn't know was that I wasn't his quiet little girl anymore. I had a plan. A very simple one. Let him walk into his own celebration and tear down the illusion he was so proud of, brick by brick. And I wasn't going to do it alone. I reached out to Jade's husband. His name was Mark Landon. He owned a used car dealership on the other side of town. I found his number in the local listings and called from a burner phone. My voice shook when I said her name. He was silent for almost 20 seconds. Then he said, "Meet me." We met at a diner off the highway. He looked broken, hollow, like someone who had spent years lying to himself just to keep breathing. "I know she's cheating," he said after I told him everything. But I never had proof. Until now. I handed him a flash drive with screenshots, emails, call logs. I'd been collecting them obsessively, like it gave me some small sense of control over the chaos. Mark stared at the files like they were burning a hole in the table. "She's not just cheating," I whispered. "She's helping destroy my family." He nodded. "Then let's return the favor." And just like that, I wasn't alone anymore. On the day of the anniversary, Dad came home in a fresh-pressed navy suit, holding a bouquet of white roses like he was some kind of movie husband. He kissed Mom's cheek and said, 30 years, huh? We should write a book." I nearly choked on my water. Dinner began like every other family celebration. Laughter. Toasts. My father pretending to be the devoted husband. Mom playing her part, calm, smiling, perfectly composed. But this time, I was directing the play. Before dessert, I said, standing up, I put together a little surprise. A video tribute, pictures, memories. Thought it would be nice. Dad smiled, smug. My little editor. Always full of ideas. I plugged in the flash drive to the TV. The screen flickered. It started with baby photos, birthdays, vacations, family Christmases. Laughter filled the room. Then the music cut. The screen glitched. And it began. A slideshow of texts between him and Jade. Intimate, dirty, unmistakable. Followed by voice notes. "I wish I could leave her for you. She doesn't even look at me the way you do." Then photos. Blurry, candid, but real. Them holding hands in a hotel lobby. Her in the passenger seat of his car, wearing the necklace he told Mom he bought for me. My father's face lost all color. He lunged for the remote, but Mark, sitting in the far corner of the room, stood up. "Don't bother," he said. "It's on a loop." That's when Mom spoke. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She turned to him and said, "Happy anniversary, sweetheart." Dad stood there frozen, mouth open, hands shaking. "You did this?" he asked me, like he still couldn't believe I would betray him. I took a breath and said, "You did this. I just made sure everyone else saw it too." Mark walked out first. He didn't say another word. I could only imagine the storm Jade would walk into later that night. My dad finally sat down, like the weight of what just happened had buckled his knees. But Mom? Mom calmly walked to the kitchen, opened the fridge, pulled out the lemon almond cake, and placed it in front of him. She cut herself a slice. "I'm still going to eat," she said. "I earned this." And that's when I saw it, the tiniest flicker of satisfaction in her eyes. She hadn't stayed out of weakness. She had stayed out of strategy. She knew all along. She'd been waiting for the moment he couldn't lie anymore. And when it came, she didn't have to raise her voice or throw a single thing. She let the truth do all the screaming. The house was quiet after that night. Too quiet. The kind of silence that doesn't comfort, it exposes. The TV tribute had done more than humiliate my father. It shattered whatever mask he'd worn for decades. Suddenly, the man who always sat at the head of the table, who offered unsolicited advice on everything from my dating life to my career, became small. He didn't leave the house for 3 days. Mom barely spoke to him. She didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't ask questions. She simply moved around him like he was furniture she no longer had use for. And honestly, that hurt him more than any slap across the face ever could. On the 4th day, he packed a bag. "Don't you want to talk?" he asked her quietly. She didn't look up from the paper she was reading. "You had years to talk. You chose silence." He turned to me next. "Callie, it didn't have to go that far." I tilted my head. "You mean the truth? That far?" His lips trembled like he wanted to say more. But I didn't give him the chance. I opened the door. He walked out without another word. We didn't hear from him for weeks. And honestly, we didn't care to. Mom was different after that. Not broken. Not angry. Just free. She started painting again. Took weekend trips with her friends. Joined a book club. I caught her smiling to herself more, humming while making breakfast, lighting candles in the evening just for her own peace. It was like she had been living in a fog for so long she forgot what sunlight felt like. But here's the thing no one tells you. When you expose a lie, it doesn't just hurt the liar. It fractures everything. I'd thought after my revenge, I would feel powerful, righteous. Instead, I felt hollow. I couldn't stop wondering, was it really worth it? Was I now the girl who aired her father's filth for everyone to see? Who handed another man the match and watched the explosion from the front row? But then something happened that answered all those doubts. One Sunday, weeks later, I came home to find my mom in the kitchen, flipping through a folder. Inside were legal papers. "I'm filing for divorce," she said simply. I blinked. "Are you sure?" She smiled, not with regret, but with peace. I was sure 10 years ago, but I needed to leave on my terms, not his. And thanks to you, I finally could. She took a sip of tea and looked out the window. "You gave me my exit." And that's when I realized I didn't just blow up a lie. I opened the door for someone I loved to walk through it, finally free. A few weeks later, I ran into my dad. It was accidental, at a gas station off the freeway. He looked older. His hair was grayer, eyes heavier. He walked up to me slowly. "Callie, I know you hate me. I deserve that." I didn't say anything. "I miss your mom," he said. "And I miss you." I looked him straight in the eyes. "You miss the control you had, not the people you broke." He swallowed hard. I wasn't happy. "That's fine," I said. "But you don't get to burn the house down just because you needed a window open." He nodded, then stepped back. "I'm sorry. I believe you," I said. "But forgiveness isn't free. You have to live with it." He nodded again, slower this time, and walked away. And that was the last time I saw him. Months passed. Seasons changed. The family I thought I had is gone. But something stronger took its place, truth. It doesn't always feel good. It's not warm or comfortable, but it's real. And that's what we live in now, me and my mom. Last week, I helped her paint her bedroom. She picked this pale gold color that somehow makes the whole space glow. When we finished, she looked around and said, "This feels like my room now. Not ours, just mine." She looked at me and smiled. "You know," she said, "you were never just my daughter. You were my reminder that someday I could choose myself again." And that made everything worth it. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Your support means everything. If this story touched you or made you think, please subscribe to our channel for more real, powerful stories.